saying there to JFK, BBC News 24. We've been tracking, we've been following one of the last commercial flights of Concorde. BA Speedbird 001 is just about to touch down at JFK. A small piece of aviation history. As the aeroplane left London, over 1,000 people gathered at Heathrow Airport to watch Concorde as it rocketed and roared into the night sky for its last commercial flight. What you're watching here is its swan song journey, I suppose. It was expected to take around 3.5 hours. Of course, it's carrying mainly avid enthusiasts, supporters of the aeroplane. A lot of VIPs on board, an awful lot of prize winners as well. Landed at JFK. You can hear the reverse thrusters there being applied by the pilot to slow it down. Of course, makes a huge noise when it takes off. When it takes off from JFK, because of noise abatement requirements, the aeroplane banks very swiftly to its left. It then goes out, climbs and goes out over the Atlantic before they put on the afterburners. Each person on board that flight today has paid an estimated £9,000 per ticket to fly at twice the speed of sound. That's 1,350 miles an hour, about 670 meters per second, at an altitude of up to 60,000 feet over the Atlantic. It took off at around about 7:20 our time. What happens is that plane will stay there overnight. It'll refuel. There'll be another contingent of VIPs, another contingent of prize winners on board tomorrow, as the aeroplane makes the return journey to London's Heathrow. Again, thousands are expected to gather to watch 3 planes land. Airport officials have ordered netting to be installed around the perimeter road at Heathrow's airport, particularly, of course, at Terminal 4, because that's the BA terminal there, to stop traffic grinding to a halt. And if you've been driving around the M25 or the M4 or the M40 west of London over the past week or 10 days, you'll have seen those flashing neon signs telling you to watch out for traffic delays, because Thames Valley Police are anticipating a situation where people will just literally pull over on the motorways surrounding Heathrow to take a look at a trio of Concordes. They're going to be landing in quick succession at Heathrow Airport from about 4 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. Of course, if you're a viewer of News 24 regularly, you will also know that we've got a special programme here with my colleague John Sopel live at Heathrow from 3:30 tomorrow afternoon. But right now we're live at JFK, just watching Speedbird 001 there as she's taxied in to her holding bay at the JFK airport in New York. Of course, the planes will carry competition winners, as we've said, but also BA staff and celebrities from Edinburgh, while another will be a round trip out over the Atlantic from Heathrow. The flight tomorrow is BA002. That's the return flight from New York back into the UK. Colin Marshall, chairman of BA, said today that the day would be one of mixed emotions. Air France, of course, retired its Concorde aeroplanes at the end of May. Colin Marshall is quoted tonight as saying, "Everyone has enormous pride in all that the Concorde has achieved, but there is inevitable sadness that we will have to move on and say goodbye," he said. Concorde's magic, he carried on, has attracted millions of loyal fans who enjoy the unique blend of speed, grace and beauty. The decision to retire Concorde was a tough one, he said, but it is the right thing to do at the right time. Lovely, lovely pictures from New York. Although it's not known yet exactly what will happen to the planes, the decommissioned planes, some, we understand, are going to be given to museums. It's had a wonderful, iconic role in modern aviation. It's a fast, it's a sleek aeroplane. Of course, it's been a tremendous source of pride to the two nations who had it as a flag carrier, the United Kingdom and France, flown by BA, flown by Air France. It is the only successful supersonic airliner. It was a joint Anglo-French project. American manufacturers never went supersonic. They thought about it, but they decided not to do it. There was a Russian version, nicknamed the Concorde. It was actually the Tupolev 144. You may remember the pictures from the Paris Air Show when it crashed. Concorde has been part of the BA and the Air France fleets for nearly 30 years, whisking the very rich and all the very important, I suppose, across the Atlantic in about 3.5 hours. They say the beauty of this particular aeroplane is that because the flight is so short and so quick, and because of the time difference, you arrive in New York before you've left London. The problem if you come the other way is that you lose a huge part of the day. You leave at late breakfast time, I think it's about 9:30 or 10 a.m., but you arrive at tea time into Heathrow's Terminal 4. There were charter flights, of course. It wasn't just shuttling between London and New York. BA used to operate a Concorde holiday service for the rich and the famous who could afford it, refueling in the Irish Republic before it would then head on. I think it was Barbados it used to go down to. Financially, of course, it's always been something of a white elephant. I think that's not being cruel to the aeroplane or to the airlines that ran it, but it was. Its development costs went way over budget. It uses huge amounts of fuel. And latterly, the aeroplanes are costing more and more to maintain. Naturally, everyone remembers what happened to the Air France Concorde at Gonesse. It was the crash of one of those Air France Concordes 3 years ago that was seen by many as being the final blow. Its slender shape will now no longer be seen as it looks like a rocket. From a distance, even when it takes off, it looks like a paper plane. If you're standing near Heathrow Airport and you can see this aeroplane maybe from a mile away, it doesn't look like an ordinary aeroplane. And it doesn't sound or behave like an ordinary aeroplane because of the aerodynamics of that delta wing shape that you can get such a good shot of at the moment. From a trajectory point of view, it's fired up into the air. It doesn't get lift and gain altitude in the same way that an ordinary aeroplane, a subsonic aeroplane. Of course, designing and building the Concorde was an incredible, amazing achievement. It cruises at twice the speed of sound. And this is where people like me lapse into cliches. It cruises at a faster speed than the sound barrier, obviously. It's as fast as a rifle bullet leaving the muzzle, they say. Even today, as these decades of service draw to a close, modern fighter aircraft only sustain the kind of speeds that this aeroplane sustains for brief periods of time, for brief bursts. I mean, putting together an aeroplane that should carry 100 passengers at that kind of velocity, safely and reliably, for hours at a time, involved a huge investment in research and years of testing. The original decision, or the original thought process at a governmental level that led to this cooperative between France and the UK that led to supersonic flight, that then led to Concorde, goes back more than 25 years. It goes back to the end of the 1950s. Concorde's designers faced the classic aerodynamic problem that a wing which performs well at these very, very high speeds tends not to do so well at the low speeds involved in takeoff and landing. Of course, at high speeds, it's crucial, it's vital that a wing offers as little resistance or drag as possible so that the airflow over that delta-shaped wing can be constant. During takeoff and landing, however, the crucial thing is that the wing offers as much lift as possible. That's why the nose cone goes down in the way that it does as the aeroplane is on the runway. The engineering compromises involved eventually evolved Concorde's distinctive delta-shaped wing, reminiscent of military aircraft in the 1950s. Concorde's engine design also posed a huge dilemma. It's got these 4 very powerful jet engines. They're mounted in pairs below each wing. They use afterburners, a technology also known as reheat, and otherwise confined to military aircraft. If you're on board the aircraft, what happens is the pilot generally comes on the PA. You can see at the front of the 2 fantastically luxurious leather-clad cabins as you're sipping champagne. You can see the speed climbing, you can see the altitude climbing. And he comes on, and the pilot does a PA in which he says something along the lines of, "In a moment, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be crossing the sound barrier, we'll be going faster than the speed of sound.